welcome to HR Hacks and Halos, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on workplace culture, calling out the bad while shining a light on the good. I'm Jivan Dempsey, a HR consultant passionate about transforming the way we work, from confronting toxic bosses to celebrating positive change. This is your space for real talk, actionable insights, and the occasional spark of inspiration. Today, we're diving into a conversation that really sits at the heart of politics, business, and HR. My guest is a familiar face in UK politics, Mohammad Yasin, the Labour MP for Bedford and Kempston, who has been serving his constituents in Parliament since 2017. With a background in public service and a passion for workplace rights, Mohammad brings a unique perspective on the critical issues shaping HR and the business today. There's so much happening on the national and international stage right now that directly impacts workplaces, whether that's the toxic nature of the political discourse these days, the rise of online abuse, Labour's New Deal for working people, or should I say the government's New Deal on working people. These issues don't just affect politicians, they affect the way businesses operate, how HR professionals manage workplace culture, and ultimately the experiences of employees across the country. In this conversation, we're going to cover so much: the increasing hostility politicians face on a daily basis and how that perhaps mirrors a toxicity in the workplace, the role of social media in fueling abuse, misinformation and division, the impact of Labour's New Deal for working people, and what that means for us as employers, us as employees, and the wider economy. Whether perhaps a 4-day working week is still a realistic concept, and how businesses can adapt to future workplace reforms. And also Sir Keir Starmer's leadership, his style, his strengths, and whether he can inspire both the public and business leaders alike. It's a wide-ranging, thought-provoking conversation that gets to the heart of some of today's biggest challenges. So let's get started. Mohammad, welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on to the podcast HR Hacks and Halos. It's really lovely to have you here. I wanted to kind of get to talk to you because there is so much happening in politics at the moment, nationally and also on the world stage, that really plays into business and plays into HR that I'd really want to dive into and unpack with you. But first of all, can we talk about yourself? You are Mohammad Yasin MP. You're a Labour MP for Bedford and Kempston. You were elected to Parliament in 2017. You're a local man. And before then, you were a local councillor. Can I, first of all, just kind of ask you, what drew you into politics in the first place?
Jivan, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. Very grateful to all of your clients who be watching this. If any of the constituents have any issues or concerns, they can get in touch with me. I'm the local MP for Bedford and Kempston. I want to start from this with this message that, please get in touch with me. I'm your MP and I'll be very happy to help wherever I can. I think you have said most already in the introduction. So I'm MP since 2017, but before that I was a councillor since 2006. How I can come into the politics is that in early 90s, when I arrived to this country, and I started helping local people. There was volunteer work, especially those generations who came from South Asia to work here in brickyards and other places here. They were retiring and they needed to fill up the pension forms and many other forms. And if you can remember those days, the forms used to be this big.
Yes.
More than 100 pages. And people were struggling to fill them up. I was helping then local Queen's Park councillor called Mohammad Khan. He actually turned his front room of his house into office, which was completely volunteer work. And he was helping those people. And I went up to him for another issue. And he kind of he recruited me. He was all volunteer, but, he said, if you want to join and help. So that's how I started helping the community. And then I went up to then local MP, who was the Labour MP Petra Cole, who was representing Bedford from 1997 to 2010 when I had a problem with my mum's visa.
Yeah.
And he helped me. And I said to him, after that, if you need my assistance at some point, please get in touch with me. So he did. He said, we need your help. That was 2020 when I went up to him and met him in Kempston Library, I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me to help him in 2001 general election. So I was delivering leaflets for him. So slowly, I go into the community by helping the community and then helping local MP. And also I joined UCC, Urban Council for Queen's Park. And I was a member of that, become a member of that, and I was trying to help the people through that in Queen's Park. But then I stood for local election in Patna, which was non-winnable seat.
Yeah.
I lost that in 2005. But in 2006, I became a councillor for Queen's Park. I stood for the election and became a councillor for Queen's Park. So the reason I came in politics, because I wanted to make a difference. And I want to help those people, who have no voice. And I'm very pleased to do that I've been doing that all the way with my full ability and honesty. And I will continue to do that. It doesn't make any difference for me whether I'm urban community councillor, Bedford Borough Councillor or Member of Parliament. It doesn't make any difference to me. My way of work is exactly the same. And I will continue to do that. That's
great. Thank you. Is it a big step up then from being a local councillor to then suddenly going and representing the constituency in Parliament?
Is a big difference. It's a huge step up. When I was elected 2017, I was very inexperienced. I wasn't, to be honest, I never campaigned to be MP. I never thought I'd be MP one day. In 2017, when election was announced, we went out to door knocking, and people were asking us, who's your candidate? And we said, we don't know. So because it was the snap election, so it was knocking on the doors, asking the people to vote for Labour. Some of my colleagues, councillors, they encouraged me to stand for this election. I wasn't prepared for it, but they said to me, "You're underestimating yourself. You should go for it, and you can put good fight against then sitting Conservative MP." So in 2017, I got through. One of the things I'm doing since then is drop-in surgeries in supermarkets, and I absolutely love doing those drop-in surgeries because people can come and see me without any appointments, and during the period I'm there, they can come anytime. So I love doing it. I was doing it as a councillor, and I'm doing it as an MP, and it's really, really helping local constituents. But it's also helping me getting re-elected twice in 2019 and 2024.
Yeah, that's one thing I know and obviously admire about you, Mohammad, is that you are incredibly visible as an MP. You're not shy. We can get access to you. And I know that I've seen you myself in one of those supermarket surgeries, but, you're very accessible. And I do see you often, on the streets of a community, knocking on doors and talking to local people and neighbours. But there's also, a fear around that now as well because of the hostility and abuse faced by politicians. Does that affect you personally or professionally and hinder the work that you do?
It's a very good question. I think I've seen in recent years, some hostility towards the politicians. Politicians, people probably don't realize that we are very vulnerable. And especially when I was doing my drop-in surgeries, and a lot of MPs were asking me, well, how can you do that? Because I think I'm probably the first one who started these drop-in surgeries in supermarkets. Maybe somebody before me, but I never knew anybody. But I know some more MPs have followed me, and they're doing their drop-in surgeries in supermarkets now. I never had any trouble for a long time. Mm-hmm. But recently, there were one or two incidents when people shouted at me for one reason or other. I don't know. But yes, we are not allowed to drop in surgeries, or it's not safe to do drop in surgery without your security now. So I have, for last year or so, I have a security guard with me who stands next to me and monitors the situations. But Bedford is a great community. And, we speak more than 100 languages here, more than 100 different nationalities live here. And during the last year in summer, when there was threat of far right to come to Bedford, it never happened. Community got together. Everybody was together. And police done a great job as well. So Bedford is a very unique place. Even, through difficult times, 7/7, 9/11, there was no issue of security in Bedford.
Yeah.
We're very proud to say that, Bedford is a very safe place. It's a great place to live. And I'm very, very proud to represent Bedford and Kempston in Parliament.
Mm. And I hear you, and it's very sad that you've had to take on a personal protection in terms of just being visible and just being there doing your job, because no one should be under any threat when they are doing their job. But how do you strike a balance though between protecting yourself as a politician, and you have to be accessible to the people that you serve, and yet at the same time you're also having to use personal security to protect your own personal safety? How do we strike a balance here?
Again, it's a very, very good question. I think the security concerns haven't prevented me to do my job up till now. I still do the job as I used to do a few years back. But I do feel sorry for some female politicians. The level of threat they're receiving is unprecedented. It's unbelievable. I know some MPs who get a lot of abuse on social media and a lot of threats on social media as well. I really feel for them. They are doing their job. I'm doing my job as well. I have to continue I can't just, step back, not do my job, because it's very important that I serve my constituents, and I'll keep doing it. I know there are threats. There are things in my back of my mind, but I have to continue to help my constituents. I can't just stop that.
Yes. So, Mohammad, I hear what you're saying, and understand that there are some very famous MPs, such as Diane Abbott, for example, who gets an awful lot of abuse online and in person just because of who she is, and no one in our work should be experiencing that. But there's an awful lot of people that kind of say that MPs have maybe brought it on themselves, that the toxicity. They've generated that through their own divisive words and language, elements of dishonesty. Do you think politicians should take a greater responsibility for the toxicity that sometimes comes with the job?
As you know, that any organization, any group, any community, there are good and not so good people. So I agree with you that some of the MPs' behavior hasn't been great, especially in last Parliament, including our Prime Minister. And I totally agree that we need to use better language, especially when we sit on TV.
Yeah.
And in different shows, when we use the language to make political gains, we use kind of language which does provoke other people to getting into wrong ideas. Yeah. So I think it's very important that MPs, elected representatives, improve their behavior, but we entirely can't blame them. There are some other issues as well. There's a far right. It would be, and then some of the politicians, some of the new elected politicians, they are, spreading the rumors and sometimes very untrue news or fake news, you can call it, so to the people. And I think we need to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
And if we behave like that, then it's a problem, obviously. And the leader sets the tone of the nation. And if the leaders are talking like that, then it's a problem. Yes. I think we need to look into our own behavior as well. And I totally agree with you. But the politicians are not entirely responsible for this. There are some other elements as well.
Oh, absolutely. And those are the kind of things that I really want to start to unpack. And again, does that toxicity actually discourage or does it impact the effectiveness of political decision making, do you think?
That's true, but also stopping the talented people to come into politics.
Yeah.
They don't want to be in politics because the toxic situation we face or the environment we face, other people are watching it. They don't want to come to in this profession, and this is the reason, in around the world. It's a global problem that there's a lack of leadership. Look at America. They elected Trump again, and who thought that Trump be back in again? There is a lack of leadership around the world, and one of the reasons is that the hostility the politicians face is unprecedented, and we never ever thought 10 years or 15 years ago that we would be going through this the period in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you were going to talk about Trump some more, I was going to say, whoa, let's go gentle there, because you're getting into trouble for that. Given now that, you obviously are very attuned to the toxicity, within politics in the job that you do, given your time again, do you think it might have discouraged you going into politics if you had known?
Yes, it would have.
That's really sad to hear, actually.
It's very sad, but when I came in politics, it was such a great thing to do, and I was even I faced some issues, but it was nowhere near what we're facing now. And if the situation was like this, then I would have probably thought twice to come into politics.
Yeah, it does feel that it has suddenly, something has changed in the world that means that politicians are easy game, fair game even, to be really mean and nasty. I'm a white collar worker. I just sit and I do my job, I get paid, and that's it. But actually, I don't get that kind of level of hate and abuse, etc. that you guys do. So I really do, commend all politicians of whatever political persuasion. It doesn't really matter. You're doing something that you believe in, and really the everything else that comes with it, like the hate and the abuse and everything, you can't just say, well, it's part of the job, because it doesn't have to be, and it didn't used to be. And there needs to be a kind of break in this at some point. And I hope that will change in time. And even people seem to think it's easy now. I mean, just take I know we can't talk about Mike Amesbury because obviously that's very much in the legal kind of sphere. But what I've heard is that, there was elements of stalking and some of his constituents actually behaving badly as well. And obviously he snapped, and that can happen if you have so much stress. Not that it excuses his behavior at all, but there are grounds for understanding what turns a person in the normal course of their job from being, just an ordinary person into someone that will actually, lash out. And it's a terrible shame because of all the public perception of politics and of MPs generally when something like that happens as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. But the key in politics is that you stay calm.
Yeah.
And listen to people.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, the people, I meet angry people. They come to drop-in surgeries. They're very angry. But 90% of those people, if you listen to them, they will calm down.
Yes.
I think this is very important to listen to people, care about their views. You might have different views than them, but, you need to give their views value as well. It's very, much a key. And as a politician, I learned a lot in last many years. And one of the thing I always say to new politicians, that you need to learn how to stay calm and listen to people.
Yeah,
this is a key, and this is very important thing to do, because everybody is not the same. Everybody is different, and you will find people with different views. I'll give you an example of Brexit. When I was doing my drop-in surgery and we were going through Brexit, there was a vote on Brexit, and I invited the people to come to my drop-in surgery to give me their opinion about the Brexit and which way I vote. I think, if I can recall it correctly, I had 50 people, it was queue, turned up to my drop-in surgery, and 25 were saying to vote for, and 25 were saying vote against.
Yeah.
So I could not fight with everybody, but I had my own opinion, and I thought it's best to do is vote against Brexit. Mm-hmm. That's what I did. Mm-hmm. But people with difference of opinion. I can tell you another funny story. I think I was on the doorstep, and a gentleman was asking me to plant a tree outside his house.
Yes.
I called the councillor and said, "Look, councillor, we're going to do that for you." While they were in conversation, his wife came out and said, "Don't plant a tree outside my house." so you have to deal with that situation, that kind of situations as well. So, so people have different opinions within families, households. You have to treat everybody same, listen to their views, and then, you have to make your mind up. What's the best for your area? What's the best for the country? And when you make your final decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you have to represent not only the interests of the constituents, but you also then have to think about what's good for the country and your political party as well. So you have to navigate all sorts of different positions in order to come to the right decision in your mind in that moment in time. It's quite a navigation that you have to do.
Well, I'm a very independent Labour MP. I have voted against my party last leadership and under this parliament as well.
Yeah.
So if I think that things not happening as my constituent want, or a majority of the people are saying, it's not good for us, then I would not hesitate to vote against my own party as well. So I think majority of the time you vote with the vast majority of the time vote with your party. But if there is anything in your mind you're going wrong, and you're convinced it's going wrong, I do vote against my own party.
Yeah. But you probably get into trouble for doing so, because, there's a lot in the newspapers about MPs who have voted against, for example, there was the two-child benefit cap, people voting against, for Gaza, against the government line, etc. So the government doesn't necessarily like it when you take an independent stance sometimes.
They probably don't, but two-child benefit, it wasn't in Labour Party's manifesto. And it was vote of confidence on budget on the new government, and you vote against that. That, in my view, that was probably not right thing to do. But on Gaza, I did vote against my own party in last parliament, and on winter fuel, I didn't vote with the party. So these things, when I come convinced that these things will affect my constituents, then I'm going to vote independently.
Absolutely. And you just have to then roll with the punches in terms of, that's probably an unfortunate word to use, but you roll with with what's going to happen in terms of whether there's a whipping going on or whatever. Let's move on. I'd like to talk to you. I'd like to continue the theme about, the abuse, etc., because there's a lot being said about online abuse at the moment. And I just really wanted to understand government's role in this, because you are very much being looked to help change the narrative again and to help change what is coming out from technology companies. Are you worried, though, about, now that we have Trump, we have Musk and the way that he's beginning to change things, we've got Zuckerberg, who's now sacked all his fact checkers, etc. Are you worried yourself as a politician and as a government about the changing tone coming from technology companies? And what can governments realistically do?
This is a huge concern that, people can say anything on social media and without considering the impact on other people. I think this is completely out of order. I think government need to take some steps. The Twitter, I think a lot of MPs are leaving the Twitter now. I'm not using it as much as I used to do. And Facebook now, as you said, they have all the fact checkers are gone now. It is a problem, and I think the Labour government need to look into it. I don't know what they're exactly going to do, but I think they need to take some concrete steps to make sure everybody is on social media feels safe, because without social media you can't run everyday's business now, and it's very important. It's part of your life now. They must make sure that everybody on social media is protected, especially young people. And you're seeing some young people falling into the trap. And there's a lot of fraud as well for the older people. I receive messages almost every other day, which is somebody may be sitting anywhere around the world, don't know who they are, and they try to sell the things to us, or they pretend they're from the bank or stuff like that, and they are ripping people off. And I think government needs to take big steps to make sure that people on social media are protected.
Absolutely. And in terms of protecting in populations from misinformation and interference, there are a number of bad actors that are allegedly involved in all of that kind of activity, which not only impacts business and working people, it impacts how we think on things and our decisions, etc. But I still ask the question: what realistically can the UK government do in itself to change that, or do governments need to come together and to have one common voice to deal with this as a problem?
I think first of all they need to make sure that they speak with the companies and ask them to change their mind, especially with the Facebook. They move with their fact checkers, which is not going to help, and gradually it will get worse and worse. I think the government need to take some steps, and I have constituents who have raised a concern with me as well. I'll be speaking with the ministers and ask them what steps they are taking, because this is very, very important thing to do. It might cost the government money, but it's important that the constituents, the people of this country, are protected, especially against the fraud, misinformation, all these things which can affect people's daily life. It's very important that they are protected, but government should take some concrete steps. I don't exactly know what they're going to do, but I will be talking to ministers in the coming days.
Yeah, understand. Do you think the online abuse is different for MPs based on their gender, race, or background? I'm thinking specifically about Mayor Sadiq Khan, who seems to be targeted very much online, and they seem to present him in all sorts of false ways, in terms of the advent of AI, using that to actually help portray him in different ways. Do you think it's different for people like yourself, Mayor Sadiq Khan, than other MPs, do you think, based on gender alone or race?
I think all the MPs and elected people are getting abused on social media without any doubt. It's more for women, and it's even more for the women with the Asian or BAME or background. Mm-hmm. So yes, there is more abuse for the BAME women in politics. Sadiq Khan is getting a lot of abuse because he's covering a lot of areas as well. He's very well known. Higher you go, more criticism. Sometimes fair criticism, but sometimes really bad abuse you get. And Diane Abbott, for example, many other MPs I know, with the BAME background, they're getting a lot of abuse as well. I get some abuse. There's no doubt about this, but I got very thick skin. And I take it, and I always welcome fair criticism. And people come and they criticize me, my drop-in surgeries, they write to me, and we discuss all these things with my team in office and my colleagues and in Parliament as well. But if there's unfair and it's unfair abuse, for example, somebody on Twitter said to me, that I hope that your daughter gets raped one day. That was absolutely disgusting. I never ever thought, I'll face that day in politics. Then a lot of, we also had a lot of MPs are getting threats. But I had some threats as well. If you can remember, there was a letter going around a few years ago, Kill the Muslim Day. And I was the first one to receive the letter through my office. So, and I believe that person was arrested after that and went to prison. But, these things should not happen in politics.
Absolutely.
We are all here to serve this country.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
We are all working really hard to improve the lives of our constituents. And I can assure you that despite all that, I will continue to do that. I'm not going to hesitate. I'm not going to sit back. I'll continue to do this.
Yeah. You shouldn't let those sorts of horrible people and kind of drive out very good people who serve their constituencies well. Ultimately, it's them, those people who are going to suffer ultimately, because they're not going to have good MPs serving them in Parliament, etc. So I think that's probably one of the messages that needs to get through. Not that they're necessarily listening, I think.
Absolutely.
But when things like this happen, Mohammed, what kind of support is there within Parliament for dealing with things like abuse, or when support is needed? What are the mechanisms within Parliament to support its MPs who are victims of abuse or threats?
There isn't a lot. And, I think a lot of politicians accept it. This is part of the job. It shouldn't be like that. I think we should have more help from... there is some extra security now for MPs, because if we feel we are not safe, for example, traveling in public transport, we can have a taxi, which I never did from Bedford to London. I always travel on public transport. There are some, a lot of things, but the emotional impact it can have on you is quite difficult to heal without support, and there is hardly any support for that.
So there's no wellness programs for MPs?
Well, maybe I haven't come across anything. Maybe for some MPs, but I know there's security available for them. And our staff get a lot of abuse as well. Because when people call in, they're the first line, and they face those very angry constituents. And I really feel sorry for our staff, but there's hardly any protection for them. Mm-hmm. As I said earlier, I'll give you an example of my family. They don't want to come in politics because they have seen me going through. Even I'm far, far better and getting less abuse than many other MPs and politicians. But still, my kids won't choose this profession because they think it's too hostile, and it's why would they face this kind of abuse when they're trying to serve the community? That's what their view is.
Yeah, if you're going to go into a job, why go into a job that is so hostile and so toxic?
Absolutely. Yeah. And they say we can work in 9 to 5 in office, come home, have rest. Yeah. And sometimes they don't see me for many days. If I'm in Parliament, I go early, come back late. They sleep by then. And when I go leave early, they probably still sleep. Yeah. So sometimes I don't see them for days. Even they're grown up now. I haven't seen them growing up. That's my biggest regret. And I'll give a lot of credit to my wife. She's been everything in the house. She's been their father, she's been their mother, she's been taken to school, town center, shopping, everything she did for many, many years now. And without her, I would have really, really struggled. Yeah. And she's backbone. She's the woman behind successful men, in politics, sitting in front of you.
They say that about every woman. Behind every successful man, there is an incredibly successful woman.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's lovely. Because, the life of an MP is not really 9 to 5, is it? You work very long hours and you do all of these committees and represent and kind of like you're in the House for votes, etc. It's not really a traditional 9 to 5, is it?
No, it's not at all. Especially the area I live in. There is no timing. I can remember somebody knocked on my door 2:30 in the morning, and my wife woke me up. She was a bit concerned that who's this, and so I opened the window from upstairs and asked, "Are you okay?" Oh, he goes, "Oh, I need a visa for Pakistan tomorrow." And I said, I have no machine to issue you visa 2:30, and it's not in my control. I did help him though. Next day, he didn't know how to do it. Yeah. But I did help him and, advise him what to do. But knocking the door 2:30 when it's no emergency or anything, is something I get this quite a lot. Not quite as late as 2:30 in the morning, but, I still get the phone calls by midnight or maybe 7 a.m. And stuff like that. So, it depends who you are and how you want to deal with these things. I don't discourage the people, because some people are in real need. They want to get in touch with you. And when you talk to them to give them advice, they get help, which is very satisfying for me. And when you're in frontline politics, you have to do these things and you have to help the people. And I
absolutely
do, with my honestly, I
Yeah.
do not hesitate to, sometimes go out of my way to help the people. And I will
Yeah.
continue to do that.
So that's the joy in your work, that you
Yeah.
know that you've actually made a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love doing it.
Yeah. Elon Musk, is he a friend or foe of the UK government?
He's not a friend, put it this way. So,
that was an easy question and an easy answer to. Thank you for that. Let's talk about the New Deal for working people.
yeah.
I know that it's moving its way through the different stages of Parliament in order to get the assent that it is needed. But I really wanted to talk to you about what it could mean for employees, but also for employers alike. As you know, I'm in HR, and it is something that I know that a lot of my community, my network are talking about, but we don't really always know the finer details. From your perspective, what do you think are going to be the key advantages of this New Deal for working people? And how do you think it's going to transform the workplace for employees and employers alike?
So this bill, as you know, going through Parliament, called Employment Rights Bill, will be biggest upgrade in workers' rights in generations. I'll give you a number of examples. 1 million people will be benefited from getting rid of 0-hour contracts.
Yeah.
This is, I used to be a taxi driver, and I can remember taking the people to work, and and then 5 minutes late, pick them back from the work, taking them back home. Say, we turn up at work, and they're saying there is no work. Mm-hmm. So getting rid of 0 hours contract is very, very important.
Yeah.
The other thing is fire and rehire. As you know, there's a number of places they get rid of their staff who are there for many, many years, and then rehire the staff for less money. We're getting rid of that as well. So basic rights from day one, it will help 9 million people. It will help 9 million people. Sorry, I got some notes here as well, so I can't remember everything.
That's all right.
Flexible working.
Yeah.
We benefit 1.7 million people will be benefit from that. Parental and bereavement leave, 1.5 million people will be helped. My biggest concern is that when women after giving birth when they go back to work, every year 4,000 women were sacked.
Yes.
So we are providing them legal protection for pregnant women, so they can easily go back to work. Mm-hmm. Probation periods, and there are many other things we are doing under this new Labour government. And so some of the decisions are not very popular, but they are very necessary. But the other good thing is that the Labour government is looking into all these things and try to make the law which will protect the workers. For example, the Labour government has given a pay rise to over 3 billion workers with a national living wage increase worth of £1,400 a year to every worker. We're also trying to get rid of rough sleeping, for example, in this country. Many other things are happening which have been neglected under the last government.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to do that. Yeah. So NHS workforce plan will be announced in the summer.
Yeah.
Alongside 10 years NHS plan. So, all these things are happening under Labour government because the Conservative in power for the last 14 years, they didn't look into these things. Nurses, teachers, and they were really, police officers, they were really struggling. Public sector workers really struggled under the last Conservative government. We came in power. We gave them, much needed essential pay rise.
Yeah.
We got rid of strikes, bringing down the appointments time and the waiting time. And giving more 2.2 million new appointments. And we'll continue to do that. And we were trying to bring NHS back on its feet because at the moment, NHS is really struggling. I've met GPs this morning. I could listen to their concerns. I'll be meeting other GP surgeries very soon. So, all their concerns will be taken back to the department and try to sort things out. So it's multitasking, but very good news is that your question was about the employment rights, and the bill is going through the Parliament. We are trying to scrutinize it. Things may not be good for the workers or the people in this country. We will scrutinize it, we'll take them out, and we will give the workers this rights from day one at the work.
And I understand that. And I understand it from an employee's perspective, because actually, if you're on a 0 hours contract, or, you are a pregnant mother and you're worried about your chances of returning to work, absolutely, those are really important for employees. But there are some employers who are really quite critical of the New Deal, and they're kind of saying that it's going to impose significant costs on them. And obviously in HR, we have to try and mitigate against some of those issues. How do you respond to business when they say that this New Deal for working people is essentially a job killer? How do you get through to them?
Well, I understand their concern as well. It's not, we don't understand. So we're looking into this bill and how to, tackle their concerns. But it's very important that the workers have their rights. If you don't give them rights, it's very, very unfair on them, because they under this cost of living crisis, they are really, really struggling. But I do understand the businesses' concerns. I do understand that especially in national insurance rises. But what can we do? The broader shoulders, they need to contribute. And I understand that every business is not rich. There are businesses who are struggling as well. But the government is looking into their concern as well. I think Business Secretary is regularly in touch with the businesses. But the good thing is that we, in Bedford, hopefully will get more jobs here when the Universal Studio gets announced. And it'd be a really good thing for Bedford, 8,000 to 10,000 new jobs. But the big businesses, I always believe this, that, the super rich people, they need to pay more tax.
Yeah.
Without their
unless you're super rich, in which case they will argue against that.
Well, the figures can't go wrong. You can mean test and things. And I think for the richer people, it's not a big thing to pay a few quid extra.
Yeah.
But for the working people, it's really difficult. It's really, really difficult. Because of the Brexit, I blame Brexit a lot, because the crisis, the cost of living crisis in this country. You go to Tesco's, sometimes you can't find tomatoes, you can't get water, you can't get drinks. It's all supply chain issues. I think the Keir Starmer is doing the right thing, visiting number of EU countries and our international friends. To meet them and try to get some, trade deals done. Our business secretaries in India and trying to do a trade deal. We need to have a very close relationship with the European Union, so they're only neighbors. It takes hours to get this, food and other goods here. But when from Australia or the other parts of the world, it would take long, or America. So I think having good trade relationship with EU is very, very important and essential. I want government to go further. I want them to get some kind of deal done.
Yeah.
If they ask me my opinion, I think the single market would be great. But I don't think it's going to happen in the near future. But we need close relationships with the EU, so we can improve our economy and get rid of this cost of living crisis in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that, just going to talking about Brexit for a moment, do you think that the decision has actually minimised the UK on the global stage and kind of stopped our voice, the influence of our voice that we used to have?
I think you're right. I think it's absolutely correct. And we lost our, influence we used to have around the world, or our strong voice we used to have.
Yeah.
Because of Brexit, European countries, they were laughing at us. I met some counterparts from other European countries. They were laughing at us. The worst thing was I went to Bedford Hospital and I met a Polish nurse. She told me that they are leaving work from Bedford Hospital, moving back to Poland, because somebody or few people who came to A&E drunk, telling them to go away because we vote for Brexit. What are you doing in our country? It's really, really bad. And immigration is very important, legal immigration. Without, migration, we would really struggle. I went to Patna Walking Center today to meet the doctors, almost all of them from South Asia. And without these essential workers, doctors, nurses, our NHS will collapse. And more than 45% NHS workforce is from South Asia and some African countries. And their role is really, really important. So because of Brexit, NHS workers are left. You can remember we had a crisis in lorry drivers. Can you remember that?
Yes,
because
I remember.
All the European drivers, they just left.
Yes,
and we have crisis of drivers, but now we have encouraged some more European drivers. They are back, and they're working in this country, which is really, really good. And I think keeping close relationship and business ties with neighbors is very, very important. You can change your friends, but you can't change your neighbors.
Yeah.
So this is very important things to remember. So I'm a big fan of having a great relationship with the EU because this will benefit our next generations, and we need to think that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's not just the lorry drivers, because obviously the government is all about growth. The government is wanting to build, so many millions of new homes over the course of this parliament. And of course, what are we short of? We're short of skills. We're short of the builders. We're short of the plasterers. We're short of the bricklayers. Yeah. So again, just sort of playing through the Brexit argument, a lot of the existing plasterers and bricklayers and builders, etc., they also went back to their home countries in the EU. So how do we manage this now? Because growth is very much on the agenda. You're looking at business to help deliver that, big vision that the Labour government has for the country. How do we manage all of this together to make it happen?
I think it's a very good question. I think we need to build houses, but we need a workforce to build them. We need a construction workforce to build them. I think government need to encourage, this is my personal view, encourage construction companies from other European countries or maybe outside of Europe to come and work here. I think we need to make the market attractive for them so they can come and work here. Otherwise, the 1.5 million houses in Parliament, it would be very, very difficult because you don't have workforce. So I think the government is looking into different options. I'm not on front bench, so I don't have insight how they're going to do it. But I think it's important that they allow construction companies from other countries to come and work here, because in our country we don't have enough construction workers or companies to deal with the pressure or demand we have here.
Yeah. And just going back to the New Deal then, I just want to play this through a little bit more. Labour, as part of the New Deal, is proposing, this 4-day working week. What opportunities as a government do you see in that 4-day work week? Where does that come from, and what do you see will be the benefits of that?
Well, if you ask my view, I think 5-day working days is better. Yeah. And I'll support that. And with the 4 days, I think we might have a lot of issues, come alongside that. Shortage of workforce again. And if people work 4 days, and then who's going to work the next 3 days if you don't have a workforce? So I think it's not a done deal. I think government is looking into it. I personally believe we must stay 5 days a week. Changing to 4 days a week need huge changes in almost everything. And, I don't think we are quite ready for that yet.
Yeah, I know that, obviously, it's not a complete businesses and HR, when people want to work 4 days and ask for flexible working and put in requests for flexible working, we do our very best to try and accommodate it. But you can't always accommodate it. There are some jobs which can allow it to happen. If you're sitting by a laptop all of the time, yes, that can happen. But if you're on a production line or you're working shifts, sometimes it doesn't always allow it. So when that then gains ascension, the New Deal for working people, and people have the automatic right to ask for a 4-day week, but being paid, to work 5 days, but within a 4-day period, it's going to take a little bit of juggling and a bit of creative thinking. from HR, from business owners in order to make that happen. So it's not going to necessarily be a simple rollout. There's going to need to be some creative thinking about how that will happen within different workplaces. But I'm sure one of the things that business owners, leaders and HR people are very, very resourceful. So we will do the very best we can to try and accommodate that, as we know, wherever we can.
Well, I think it's probably part of the flexible working. Flexible, I think, in my view, it means that if a female worker is pregnant, it should be allowed to work different hours. I very much allow my office staff to do flexible work because they, three of my staff, they got young children, and they work sometimes from home if the kid is sick, and their partners at work, so they work from home. I allow them to do that as long as the work is getting done. I don't mind where they work from. So I think it's important that a lot of the other employees, they look into that as well. As long as the work is done, let them give them some flexibility so they can work from home. In these days, it's not very difficult. But then on production line and other places, I think yes, that is difficult, and people need to be at work, and people need to getting to 4 days a week is going to be difficult. But I think the government is going to have a thorough look. I don't think it's going to be easy, or it's going to be straightforward, or it's going to happen straight away. I think you need to look into it properly.
Yeah, and I think you're right, because also, I mean, you touch on a very important point, that if you can support flexible working, the payoff on that, the trade-off, is that people work hard. They are more liable to want to stay with you. So you're retaining your workforce because you're actually giving them and allowing them that flexibility. You're kind of saying to them, you are valuable to us, so we're going to do what we can to try and accommodate your requests and to try and keep you within the business. So actually there are trade-offs. It just takes a bit of creative thinking. But of course there will be some other trade-offs, which are economic trade-offs. And that, along with things like, the other thing that businesses are talking about is the increase in national insurance. It impacts HR, because then we don't have the capacity to be able to say, well, we know we need another 10 employees, but can we actually afford that? So there is a trade-off with all of these things, and there is a financial burden that is being imposed, I suppose, through some of the changes that are happening onto businesses. How do you align, and how do you make businesses feel a little bit happier about some of the policies that are coming forward? Because right now it's a very difficult time for businesses and, of course, for taxpayers.
No, I totally agree that businesses are, especially small businesses, are upset. I talk to them on a regular basis. We're feeding back to our front bench team, and they are looking into the different aspects. And I don't have full details, but there is a concern that businesses are not happy, and we make sure that, because small businesses are backbone of any economy, and we need to look after them. So we, the MPs like me, backbench MPs, meet the regular businesses regularly. We are feeding back to our front bench team and asking them to look into it. I totally understand the business's concern. I totally understand this extra burden. But, then how are we going to pay for the services? Yeah. That's my concern.
Yeah.
NHS, as you know, the junior doctors were on strike for more than 2 years.
Yeah.
And as a result, the waiting time, or the even for cancer patients, were really, really high. Came in, we had to. I know it was expensive deal, but we had to get rid of these strikes to get the NHS back on the track. So we need the money for that, and it's difficult, where if we put the tax on income tax on workers, they are struggling already. Businesses, they are also struggling, and increasing NI is not affecting every business. There are, some businesses can afford it. I understand some can't afford it, and some and some don't fall into that criteria, so they don't have to pay any extra national insurance contribution. So if you ask me, if I was, I would have put more tax on super rich people.
Yeah.
And really broader shoulders. They need to encourage them to contribute more.
Is that coming, do you think, Mohammed?
I hope so. I really, really hope so.
Yeah. So there may be a wealth tax in forthcoming.
Well, may not be wealth tax, but I mean, 50p, for example.
Yeah.
There was a Labour government did that before.
Yeah.
There's always a risk. I mean, if you put too much tax on big businesses, they might move out, and unemployment will go up. So you have to keep the balance. We have to keep the right balance. When
Absolutely.
you do these things. Then, honestly, I'm very much encouraged by the recent steps the government has taken. We made mistakes when we come in power, because it's like any new job, and a lot of people go upset, and then some reform party in there, and all others, they're playing their right wing politics. So I think the government is settling down, and I'm really, really hoping that this is the time to improve the services in this country and change the life of those people who are really struggling.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because I know time is running out, and I really want to talk about Keir Starmer, because I want to talk to you about your experience of his leadership style and what makes him a leader, and what we can learn from his particular style. Because for the first time since he's been appointed PM, he's actually had some good press because of what he did with Trump yesterday, and that's really quite encouraging to see. So how do you, as an MP, as a backbencher, how do you define Starmer's leadership style?
First of all, I would like to say that he's no born politician. And as you know, he was a chief prosecutor and came into politics. But one thing I can tell you, he's
son of a toolmaker, son of a nurse. Yeah,
absolutely. And he's very, very approachable.
Yeah.
I get hold of him quite often. When I see him, you'll stop him, talk to him, and tell him different things. And he always listens to you. And this is very important. I think it's the biggest quality in leadership, because I know some countries, the elected representative, they complain they can't find their prime minister. I'm pleased that he's approachable. We can talk to him, and we are going through very difficult times. We have seen 14 years of Conservative government. We have to make difficult decisions to put country first, party second. It is important that our country comes first, and if we achieve to improve, for example, economy, NHS, these are two of my the biggest concerns in this country, and the safety of the people, policing. If we manage to do that, I think we'll be very happy that we have achieved something. There are a number of other issues as well. The welfare of the people, benefits people are struggling. People, disabled people are struggling. Homelessness, rough sleeping. There are a number of things, because I see rough sleeping every day almost when I walk through the town. There are things, but we need to get economy back on track if you want to make a difference. And everything else is, goes around economy and in circles. But we need to improve economy first of all, and I think government is taking some serious steps. And I think that, as you mentioned, it was a good meeting with Trump yesterday, and I think Keir Starmer was in very good form yesterday when he met. Because a lot of people thought, and some, opposition parties hoped that it goes wrong. Well, I'm glad that it went well.
Yeah.
I always don't agree everything, every politician does, including Prime Minister. But, I think he got right attention. I think he's going towards the right direction. And I really, really hope that it will pay off.
Yeah. But do you think that it's fair when people call him too cautious and uninspiring?
No, I don't think so. As I said, he's not, people think Boris Johnson was inspiring. I don't think so. I don't, the people, just doing bluffs and cracking jokes and unnecessary jobs. So, some people like it, but I think you need a serious person to do the job at this stage and serious person to take the country out of trouble. And I personally think that Keir Starmer is the person. He puts his head down and start, work.
Yeah.
Rather than going out and cracking jokes and try to get into social media or press. And it's not about making the funny jokes. Or it's about getting into the job, put your head down, get into the job properly, and make some serious and essential changes in this country, which we desperately need.
Yeah. So his approach is really what you're saying, what the UK needs right now.
We need a serious person. I think we need some elder in the room, and he's the one, I believe. If you look at the leadership around, I don't think Kemi Bedrock is up to the mark. Or he's the solution. Nigel Farage, they can stand in Parliament and say things, but where there are policies, more policies they can implement to, for example, waiting time in NHS. How are they going to do it? They have no plans. They have no plans. They're only criticizing us, but we will do our best to put this country back on the track economically, NHS.
Yeah. But do you think he's got the big vision? Because we need that big vision to know where the UK needs to go.
I think he works around the team. He's got a very good team around him. As you know, that he visited a number of countries, getting UK back on where we were about 15, 20 years ago. I would say we lost a lot of credibility because of the Brexit. Other countries stopped us taking seriously. I think we need to get back on track. And I think Keir is doing the right thing. It's only 7-8 months we in power. And people suffered the last 14 years. And please, I will encourage your viewers to judge us on 5 years performance, because we are elected for 5 years. Please bear with us. We are doing our best. And I always say that any Labour government is better than the Conservative government. And you can see all the Labour previous governments when we come in power, we sort out NHS. We give workers their rights. We gave them rights of holidays, minimum wage. All these things came under Labour. And I will continue. I will encourage my government, and I will be working with my front bench. The most important thing the backbenchers can do, give them feedback of their constituents, which is I always do. Whether it's doing the going through the lobby for the voting, or writing letters or emails to them, I always do and say, this is how my constituents are feeling, and these are difficulties they are facing. So I always do this, and I will continue to do that. So I hope all these things will make a difference.
How much time does he make for the backbenchers? Because we all know that his top table, they're in his room, in the cabinet office, every week. How much time does he make for you and your colleagues over in the backbenchers?
When it comes to PLP, Parliamentary Labour Party meetings that address the parliamentary party on a regular basis, you can meet his parliamentary secretaries. You can raise the issues with them. It's quite regular. I would say it's far better than last few prime ministers. He's in touch with them. I mean, as I said to you, he's very approachable. He comes for the votes. You can meet him going through the lobby. So you can, after PMQ, you can meet him. And he's taking his job very, very seriously. And he understands the challenges our country is facing and the challenges he's facing to get this country out of trouble. And that's very important. The Secretary of States are very approachable. You can catch them. You can meet them. Ministers, you can have a meeting with them. And I'm so pleased that first time since I got elected as the MP, we are in government. So I can talk to somebody who can make a difference. Because under the last government, it was almost impossible for us to find even junior ministers. And now it's a different story. Everything is not perfect. Now, I must admit that under this government, everything is not perfect. But honestly speaking, I think the government is really working hard to make a difference. We're finding so many hurdles, and the difficulties. But I can assure you that the government is got right direction, right intention, and it will make a difference in hopefully near future.
But can he really get that message across? Because so many people are so rude about him and they don't like him and they say all sorts of things. And you're right. He's only been a prime minister for 7 months. How can he really connect with people to show that he is the right leader and his style will work?
Look, the difficulty we're facing is right-wing media. Look at the print media. Look at the social media. They will never publish anything positive. The Labour government will do. I think we need to keep fighting. I think we need to continue the work we do, and the people will realize, that we need to change the lives of the people. We need to see the difference on the ground to make sure that the day people start seeing the difference on the ground. For example, when we say we created 2.2 million new appointments, people say, "Oh no, that's not true." But it is a reality. If you speak with the hospitals, if you speak with the other NHS institutions, they agree that they have gone slightly easier when it comes to seeing the patients, and we'll continue to do that. So as long as the people see the difference on the ground, I think the mood will change. In this country, it's early days. Yeah. We have made some difficult decisions. I totally understand that, and we also understand that why people are upset. But to get the country back on a track and get rid of all these issues, I think we had to make difficult decisions. They're not very popular, but they were very necessary. So that's why we're doing it.
Maybe he could take a leaf out of Trump's book, because if nothing else, Trump is very open and will say he doesn't do diplomacy very well. He just is open and he just says whatever he's thinking. Maybe there's some lessons to be learned in terms of just being open and actually sharing what's going on more so, in government and kind of like not protecting the public from bad news, but actually sharing some more of that bad news so that people can actually see what difference you are making.
I don't agree with the Trump's style of politics. I think it's important that that's probably not British style of politics either.
No.
So we want to be honest with the people.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You can put the hand up and say, look, yes, we promised this, but we won't be able to keep that promise because, that time we didn't realize there'd be £22 billion black hole, for example, and some people won't understand, but some do understand, but they through the social media, they spreading fake news. £22 billion is a genuine black hole, and as a result, we are, not in a very good position. But I can assure you. I think you're absolutely right that it's important that we come out and speak with you, with the country, and say this is the problem. I think he does. He has done a few press conferences. Rachel Reeves has spoken a few times as well. So I think we'll continue to do that until the word gets out and the word gets to the people.
Yeah, I hope so, because I remember when Cameron and Osborne said, we're all in it together. And there was something in those words, we are all in it together. There's been a problem. There's been a world banking crash. We're all in it together, until it became very obvious that we weren't all in it together.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a danger that sometimes being open and on, or trying to, sometimes they can just be words, can't they? And then that gets MPs bad press as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mohammad, I've taken up more time than I know, and you've been incredibly generous with your time, and I thank you for that. If I can just ask you one final question, and that is, as a Labour MP, as part of a Labour government, what do you hope the legacy will be for the UK in terms of your time in Parliament now?
Taking country out of trouble. That's very important. Whether it's economy, NHS, or any other issues, I think if we manage to do that, I think the people will remember us for a long time. For
all the right reasons, hopefully, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And this is what I want government to do. Personally, if you ask me, I think if we get rid of the homelessness, give the people somewhere to sleep or live, that's very, very important to me, because I've seen poverty in my life myself, I understand how difficult it is when you see people walking past you, and in good health, in good condition. You're sitting there and you think, "Oh, I wish I was allowed that," because I went through that myself as a child, as a kid. I think it's very important. I think getting rid of homelessness, giving people homes, and poverty is very, very close to me. This is what I want to. If one day I'll be able to, I will do that.
Yeah.
So hopefully under Labour government, we will manage to do that.
Yeah. And I hope so too, because obviously that is one of the key planks of policy that Angela Rayner is pushing, isn't she, in terms of house building and obviously to help generate growth. And also I do hope that will help to turn the tide on the toxicity and hostility that MPs get, because you are doing your jobs. You are public servants. You're there to serve the broader community and the UK, and no one, in terms of the work that they do, should be subject to so much abuse and hostility in their day-to-day work. Mohammad, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute joy talking to you. I do hope that it's been an absolute pleasure understanding about how Parliament works and your views on some of those policies that are currently out there, and also your views on leadership and particularly Keir Starmer's leadership. So I thank you again for your time.
No, thank you so much, Jivan, and can I invite you to come to Parliament and have a cup of tea with us? So
I would love that. Please
do not hesitate when you want to come. And if you want to watch PMQ, please give us a couple of months' notice and we'll get you tickets.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I would definitely be taking you up on that invitation. Wow, what a fascinating conversation with Mohammad Yasin. We covered so much ground, from the toxic nature of politics and its parallels in the workplace to the Labour government's ambitious New Deal for working people. I think there are a few key takeaways that we can consider from today's discussion. Toxicity in politics, I think, reflects the wider societal challenges that we're currently seeing and that HR professionals we need to address. Online abuse remains a growing issue and regulation is still being discussed, but there's a long way to go to protecting people from harm. The New Deal for working people, well, it has the potential to transform employment, but, at what cost? Certainly for small businesses. They're concerned about its cost and also a practical implementation. The 4-day working week is definitely something to be commended, but it's a complex policy idea. And is it realistic? And what would be the consequences, whether intended or unintended, for essential industries? And finally, Sir Keir Starmer's leadership. He may not be flashy, but it's methodical and it's strategic. But whether that's enough to win over voters and business leaders in a few years come the next general election remains to be seen. A huge thank you to Mohammad Yasin for joining me today and sharing such valuable insights. And thank you also for listening and tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review and share it with your network. Let me know your thoughts about this episode. I love to hear your comments. And also don't forget, the more you share and the more you engage, the more we can amplify the voice and we can champion positive change in the workplace. Thank you again for listening. I'll be back soon with some more HR hacks, and together we can polish some more HR halos. See ya.